Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sunza, Jurassic. Sunza, Jurassic. Sunza.
Isn't the happiest of happy talk subjects.
No, it's not. But I thought it's important to say something about a gentleman that not a lot of people listening to us would know, but certainly he was born and raised in this town. And he had a lot of friends.
Cut quite a swath in this town.
Yes, he did.
In his brief time. We lost a former colleague. Unfortunately, I was the one to break the news to Bart tonight. And I know that anybody that at any time knew Jim Manley. He wasn't one that you easily forget.
No. He was bigger than life. And my relationship with him goes back to the time of my first job in Flagstaff, Arizona. And before Manley arrived there, we were under a series of general managers that came and went. We were owned by a guy, a real estate guy, who would drive into the station every day, see what the checks were that came in from all of our accounts, and take all the checks with him and put it in his own bank account, and our paychecks would bounce. And that was every time we'd go to the bank to cash our paychecks, one teller would say to the other teller, "Hey, here's another one from blah 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 radio station. Look, oh wow, this is great. Well, this is the third one that bounced today. Man, you guys are really in trouble." It was just like a joke all around Flagstaff. That all ended when Jim Manley came there. He told the owner, he says, "You got to stop doing this, or I'm going to lock the doors." And it got so bad that Jim actually paid us out of his own pocket, and that's something I'll never forget, and that's something you don't often see in this business. You don't see that kind of generosity.
No.
And I just will miss him a great deal.
He for all his anger, he was an angry guy in a lot of ways. Anybody who spent time with him realizes the guy probably had as much talent as anyone I ever met. He was on the show, and you were here that night.
Yeah.
When I brought in the funniest people I know and asked them to be funny on the air. Manley was one of the three people I brought in.
He was always the funniest person I ever knew. This is back in 1980 when we worked together in Flagstaff, but he would come into my newsroom, and he'd say, "Okay, you're driving me to the laundry." This is like 3 o'clock in the middle of the day. I said, "What? You're going to drive me to the laundry? Come on, let's go." So we'd get in his car, which was an old Dodge. I don't know, he had a lot of money. I continued to ask him why he drove an old Dodge. He said, "Well, some Sun City woman owned it, drove it once a week to go to church. I figured it was a good buy." That was Manley. And he'd give me the keys, and I'd drive him to get his laundry. And the first time he did this to me, I could not believe why he was dragging me away from the newsroom in the middle of the day to drive him to get his laundry. He is the general manager, the boss. And the whole reason he did that was to just chat with me, to just talk about what's going on at the station and talk about everything that's going on. Rather than sit in his office, he just drove to get his laundry and drove back. And by the time we were back, everything was worked out, and he knew what I needed, and I knew what he wanted, and that was our relationship. I'll never work for a guy like that again, probably, but he was great.
Well, I was on the sales staff with him here, and I have, for all the bull that he could throw around, he didn't tolerate it very much. In fact, many general managers ago, Jim Manley was released from KTAR, from the sales staff, while shouting at the general manager with his briefcase over his head, and I know you know this is true.
Yes, I did.
Shouting how incompetent he felt the guy was. Well, the guy was firing. I've never seen it, and I happen to be one of the few people who witnessed the scene, and I helped push him into the elevator and out the door before things got really out of hand. But at the same time, inside, I was cracking up, and I have never forgotten the scene. And he was a one of a kind in all my life, with all the great people I've met and will always remember. Manley's he's captain of the team.
Absolutely. There's so many. We could go on all night about him, and I wouldn't be unhappy about that because he made such an impression on me. I think, looking back and thinking about Jim tonight, thinking about him today, oddly enough, before you even mentioned that to me.
That's what you said.
Yeah, I was just thinking about him today. In the early stages of my career, and Flagstaff, Arizona was my first gig right out of college, that station had so many problems, and checks bouncing and people coming and going. It wasn't until Manley came there, straightened that out, and really was so big on me and so much in my corner that helped push me along to continue on in this business. That was Jim. And I will miss him a great deal, and I feel very bad for his family.
Yes.
He was a young man. He's only 44. Died of a heart attack in his sleep. He was under a great deal of stress, and we all just miss him already.
Yeah. It's fitting that we talk about him tonight because every time I'd run into him, he moved to Nevada. He'd come back into town. Every time I talked to him, no matter where we were, and I bumped into him a lot, he'd say, you know, I heard you and Bart last night, and you guys had me rolling around.
He just loved it.
Yeah, he was one of the biggest Happy Talk. As much as Bob the lawyer hates Happy Talk, and I know he still listens, Manley just loved it.
Yeah.
By the way, we should tell people that services are going to be held at Brophy Chapel on Wednesday at 1:30.
Once again, our condolences to Jim's family. He had a son, a very young son, and we just our thoughts are with you.
Well put.
Bart Graves on KTAR, 6:20 a.m. The First Name in News.
2 seconds is too long.
This is KTAR 620 AM News Talk Radio. First, we report the news. Then we talk about it. Welcome to Strauss's Place. To join the conversation, call 277-5827. That's 277-KTAR. And now, here's your host, KTAR's Bill Strauss.
I think Bart and I are in agreement that the only complaint Jim Manley would have had with that particular Happy Talk is not funny enough for his liking. And for those of you who have stayed with me a long time, you'll remember the show where I brought the funniest people I know on. And Manley was the star that night. Always.